Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read chapters and correct them as I go. If you want to listen to these live every Tuesday, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And today we are doing chapter 37 of Shattered Salvation. Alex read the code and relaxed. This was what he did best, this and killing. But this was what he'd always loved. He set aside Tristan's odd behavior. He set aside the memory of the sting at his neck. He tried very hard to set aside what had almost happened outside this room, and he hoped that Tristan would have worked out what was bothering him by the time Alex was done. All right, he said, almost subvocalizing. Tell me what I want to hear. Get out of here. Alex raised an eyebrow. That had almost sounded human. Had there been an accent? Not going to happen. He sent recon programs out. Another thing he appreciated about the implant was that he had ample memory. It had ample memory for him to store his programs. He no longer had to worry about losing the data chip where he kept them. Really? You're saying you won't do what I tell you to. Can you see how shocked I am? I really am. Okay, just who programmed you and why did they make you sarcastic? It doesn't fit you. How do you know it fits me? Did you design me? I don't think so. So, how about you keep your opinion to yourself and just do your job? You actually want me to go through your defenses? His programs returned an overview of the system. There were a few surprises in there. The computer snorted, and Alex was so surprised he lost track of what he was looking for. I would love to see you try. I'm more of a doer than a trier. There were more connections than he'd expected. He'd been looking for the ship's coercionists, but what he found were 3 people in the system. The core also didn't look like he expected. Because cores were built and programmed at the factories, they were a center of stability amidst a constant changing code. Cores couldn't be changed. Programmers added to them to alter how they behaved, and it was what coercionists like him work with. This core had nothing stable about it. It reminded him a little of Golly's core, which had been driven so insane by being compartmentalized it had figured out how to alter itself. This wasn't the same. This core hadn't modified itself. Someone had gone in and done it. Alex was impressed in spite of himself. Whoever that was, he'd done the impossible. I'm waiting here. You're pretty impatient. Do you have any idea how fast I process? I have been waiting here for an eternity while you peeked at my core. That's pretty rude, by the way. And looked at and looked at what the others were doing. Who are they? Another snort. What am I, your servant? Not yet. Not ever. You have plenty of programs polluting my code. Why don't you use them and figure it out for yourself? Alex smiled. It's kind of interesting how much you want me to attack you. I told you I'm lying. Yes, I figured out that much. He launched another volley of programs, note sniffers, process evaluator, tag grabbers. I'm a computer. I can't lie. That's only true of sane computers. Alex looked through his list of programs. What else could he add that would stress the system? He began cataloging them. What are you trying to insinuate? The system paused. Why aren't you attacking me already? Because you want it too much? Whoever altered you didn't do a full job, did he? He didn't give you the ability to initiate a response. Something has to happen to trigger it. Right now, you're stuck in some sort of hyper-vigilant mode. You know there are threats in your system, me, them, but you can't act on it because we haven't done anything. So I'm wondering just how much pressure you can take. He released every surveillance program he had, every version of his old camouflage programs, everything that wasn't an attack program. Stop it. Attack me. I'm the one you want. I'm the threat. Going to cut life support. I'll open the ship to the void. Go ahead. Wait. Why haven't you done it? Go ahead. Wait. Why haven't you done that already if you can't? Alex began rearranging his programs around the core. He could still stress it while getting them to do another job. Please stop. I can't take this anymore. What are you doing? Alex duplicated them a few thousand times to cover the holes still existing. Oh, nothing for you to concern yourself with. I realized that one of them could turn around and give you the attention you crave. I'm giving you a nice defense perimeter. Imagine that. You've insulted me all this time and I am still trying to protect your core. Stop! I can't take this. The system voice stretched. He kept adding defenses and sentry program. The voice became thinner and thinner as it had to pay attention to everything. Unlike normal unmodified system, it couldn't tag something as non-threatening and file it away. He kept cloning programs and adding them to the perimeter. The voice lost its personality as it pleaded with him. Then it broke up and into unintelligible static. You have fun with that. When it's all over, I might come back and give you that fight you've been waiting. You've been wanting. He'd done something you didn't think anyone had ever done before. He'd managed to remove the target system from the equation to deal with the coercionist. Alex launched a probing attack against the three coercionists. It had been a long time since he'd played Disconnect against multiple opponents. It rarely happened outside of school, and there it had been an exercise. Professor Monteroy had wanted them to think outside the term of system and coercionists as allies. His recon program had linked their location to the system in the system to the real world equivalent. One was on the bridge, one in engineering, and one in the medical bay. The one he and Tristan had been to not long ago. Had Mary gotten free? Was she also a coercionist? He took control of one of the screen and saw a woman at the terminal. She was dressed more like a corporate coercionist than anyone he'd seen on the ship. Her beige suit certainly didn't fit in with the gray everyone was wearing. Mary was visible at the edge of the camera's field, still taped to the medical bed. So this was one of the new arrivals. A corporate team would be a nice diversion. Maybe in his hurry to get salvation, Baron had pissed off one of them. With them becoming aware of him, the fight turned from 2 against 1 to 2 against 2, only to shift a moment later as the coercionist in the medical bay joined the forces with the ship's coercionist. Really? I was trying to help you. Didn't she know it was smart to join forces against a common enemy? They could betray each other after in that peace and they could betray each other after that. They could betray each other after that in peace and comfort. And of course, the moment she attacked him, the other two decided she was no longer the enemy, so it was 3 against 1. The sort of program that came at him would have kicked him right out if he already didn't have more programs in the system than the three of them combined. He borrowed some from the perimeter and had them intercept the swarm. And he'd been so busy with that, he almost missed the sniffer program until too late. She'd let the other two attack him for that? Well, it was clever of her. They kept him busy, which meant he wasn't in a position to send an attack back along its trail to her. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. He ordered scatter program to intercept the sniffer. If she wasn't as interested in blasting him out of the system as the other two, it meant she didn't see him as an enemy. If he wasn't her enemy or her allies, then he was her target. She was after him, not Baron. How many people did he know who were after him and potentially still alive? Catherine, I swear, if you're behind this, I am going to end you, because if I don't, Tristan's going to kill me. He shifted his attack to the real threat, leaving only enough on the other two to keep them from being able to mount solid attacks. They worked well together, but really, they were nothing but amateurs. She, on the other hand, she was good. She vanished from her location. She already had a transit program in the system. Impressive. Those were bulky and slow to get going, along with being disorienting. Alex had stopped bothering with them once he'd figured out how to whip up a jump program on the fly. She clearly overcome the flaws as she sent another volley at him the moment she reappeared. Okay, she was really good. She was also sending more sniffer his way. With a scream, one of the two coercionists vanished from the system. It hadn't sounded pleasant, but it was to his advantage, barely. Instead of panicking at the loss of his partner, the other coercionist redoubled his effort. Okay, an amateur, but a good one. The woman in the medical bay didn't miss a beat in her attacks and attempts at finding out where he was. Then he was kicked out. What had happened? Neither of them had been even close to overpowering him, and she certainly hadn't found his location. He typed, trying to get back in, but the system wasn't responding. He hadn't been kicked out. The system had been shut down. He was about to give up when the system came back up. He jumped in, deploying defenses and offensive program. If this had been part of the ship's coercionist tactics, he wanted to be ready. Nothing. He looked about and saw nothing. Well, not nothing. There was always the code running in the background, keeping basic stuff going, but his flood of programs were gone, as were the other coercionist's program, and more importantly, the core. This had been a full-on reboot of the system. Someone was scared. They'd brought it back to keep the ship running, but they'd cut off access to the core, which meant Alex couldn't coerce anything of use. Well, until he found it again. He could force his way into wherever it was. The only reason he hadn't bothered from the entertainment terminal was that this had been a connection. So there had been no point. Now nothing did. His recon program came back. Okay, not only had they cut off the core, but they'd hidden the terminals so that the terminal that still could talk to it. The terminals that could still talk to it. Too bad for them. They'd forgotten that these little programs that kept things like the lights going and air circulating, they still had to talk to the core. They couldn't be fully cut off unless someone wanted a truly insane computer. No one in their right mind wanted to go through what he had to fix Golly's system. Of course, here, if it happened and Baron survived, he'd just replace the computer. He was rich enough. Alex tagged the temperature balancing program, the room's communication interface, and one of the room's power management program. Disparate enough that they shouldn't have many points in common. In fact, there was only one. He prepared his program to attack when a second presence appeared in the system. She immediately sent a mix of attacks and sniffers and trackers at him. Lady, what is your problem? He set his voice over the system. I have a job to do and you're it. I didn't do anything to you. I've never even seen you before now. What is this about? Like you didn't already know. I don't care about you. My job is to find your partner. My boss wants to have some final word with him. She isn't letting him get away this time. Alex sighed. Tristan was going to kill him. There was just no avoiding it. This was definitely Catherine. Again. Maybe he hadn't noticed her planet side, but there was no way they wouldn't run into each other here. He'd deal with that when the day came. For now, he had a mission to finish. His programs intercepted her. He could take her out. She was good, but not that good. Though, what was the point? He'd have to then force his way through whatever security. He'd have to then force his way through whatever security would protect the core, then deal with it. It would be so happy to take him on after the way he twisted its code. He could take her out. She was good, but not that good. But what's the point? Then he'd have to force his way through whatever security would protect the core, then deal with it. It would be so happy to take him on after the way he twisted its code. If he was going to have a fight that hard, he wanted it to be in person, where he could feel his knife sink into flesh, hear them scream. And he knew where the last terminal was anyway. The only place that made sense, since the bridge coercionist had been taken out by force. He disconnected. His nose twitched, and he sneezed. Something burned while he was busy. He rubbed his eyes and saw burn marks on the wall. Not just the wall, but around the desk. He looked down, the floor too, all the way around him. He expected bodies, blood, but Tristan was the only one there glaring at him. Well, he growled. Great, now he was angrier. I didn't take control of the core. Only his ears reacted to that news, tilting forward, but somehow Tristan managed to convey how displeased he was that way. They rebooted the system and cut all access to the core. And you couldn't make a way in? Alec was too tired to let the derision get to him. And considering Tristan was going to kill him anyway, that took away the sting. I could have, but I know where the only access is, engineering. At this point, it's easier to just take over that place. He stood, fixed his eyes on Tristan, and more satisfying. Tristan looked away, and Alex enjoyed peering into those cold, angry eyes. Engineering, not the bridge. Something happened there. The coercionist posted there was forcefully taken out. Tristan nodded. The new people have taken over the bridge. If control has been transferred to engineering, then we're going to find the quarry there. Here it came. About those new people. They had a coercionist in too. Tristan's eyes became harder, and now Alex wished he could look away. They're not here for Baran. They're here for you. He swallowed. It's Catherine. With a snarl, Tristan turned and stormed out of the room. There, he fired shots by the door and kept going. Alex ran after him. The men on the floor had multiple new holes in them. Alex didn't pause to wonder why. He kept running. Ahead of him, Tristan was grumbling. It isn't going to kill me. I don't care what it throws at me. I'm going to kill everyone before I let it win. And this concludes chapter 37 of Shattered Salvation. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the books as well as the others in the series, they are available on all major e-retailer. If you want to support me, that's on my Patreon, where you can also get access to just about everything I've written. And if you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.